If everything goes according to plan, the golden arm of quarterback and reigning league MVP Patrick Mahomes looks to carry the Kansas City Chiefs into a new era of success, relying on a dynamic passing game to put up video game numbers while donning the iconic red, white, and yellow. This would certainly be a change-up for the Chiefs, as Mahomes looks to be on pace to shift the culture of the franchise from a typically run-reliant offense to a more pass-friendly attack. For most of the late 90s and new millennium, Arrowhead Stadium has primarily been rocked by spectacular catches by Tony Gonzalez and a running game led by an offensive line which has been dominant at times. Does anyone remember the ghosts of all-pro Chiefs past, like Brian Waters, Willie Roaf, Will Shields, and Tony Richardson? When thinking about KC offenses over the past 10 to 15 years, one name which may spring up in the minds of fans is bruising running back Larry Johnson, who put up some of the best numbers this side of Christian McCoy. For our younger viewers, look up Johnson's 2005 and 2006 campaigns. In just 9 games as a starter, the Penn State runner gained over 1,700 yards on the ground in 2005. After Johnson's departure, thankfully Kansas City did not miss a beat. Thanks to the speedy, slashing Jamal Charles, who rushed for over 1,000 yards, in each season he played at least 6 games for the Chiefs. After about a year and a half, the Kansas City rushing attack still remained one of the best in the league. However, before there was Charles and before there was Johnson, there is the godfather and forgotten early 2000 superstar, Priest Holmes. One of the charter members of the forgotten and elite 2000s running backs club, which also includes Johnson and the likes of Brian Westbrook, Amon Green, Sean Alexander, Corey Dillon, and Deuce McAllister. Holmes would have his best seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs after starting his career with the Baltimore Ravens. While in a Chiefs uniform, Holmes would become a household name not just on the gridiron, but also in the chat rooms and message boards, thanks to his best years coming as fantasy football was becoming more popular. Just as the multi-billion-dollar sports game was gaining nationwide popularity, Holmes was one of the first major players whose name and production was associated with fantasy football. He was viewed as the ultimate top pick in leagues across the internet. Looking back at his numbers with the Chiefs, it is clear to see why Holmes was considered one of the most dominant individuals on the football field and in fantasy. In his 2001 season, his first with the Kansas City Chiefs after signing a team-friendly contract with the club, the former backup to Jamal Lewis stunned the football world by becoming the first undrafted running back to lead the league in rushing with over 1,500 yards. As of the end of the 2018-2019 season, Arian Foster and Holmes are the only rushers to accomplish that feat. Holmes would go on to have some of the most dominant seasons in recent running back history, and would go on to set some notable team and league records as well. So, if you're wondering what happened to the 3-time first-team All-Pro member, we at TPS would like to turn back the clock just a bit and show you where and how Holmes became one of the best and most feared running backs in the league. In the great state of Texas, Holmes developed his game to become one of the best statewide during the early 1990s. Before Emmitt Smith solidified himself as the greatest running back in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, the mark was bestowed to an earlier Hall of Famer, Tony Dorsett, and he was the tailback who Holmes idolized and sought to emulate in his youth. Holmes followed his hero while playing in Texas, which is highlighted by a senior season where he gained a little over 2,000 yards with 26 scores. Unfortunately, in a reversal of fortunes from Friday Night Lights, Holmes and his high school, John Marshall High, would fall in the state championship to Odessa Permian. Of course, after constructing one of the best high school careers among his generation, college coaches in the state did anything possible to keep the 5'9" rusher in state, and Holmes would end up playing for the historic Texas Longhorns at the next level. In 4 seasons of action, Holmes would have a solid career with the Longhorns. However, in a sign of foreshadowing, he would be a bit overshadowed by more flashy running backs and teammates. With the Longhorns, Holmes played in a more secondary role. The most carries Holmes would get in a single season during his collegiate career would be his junior, total of 120. That season, his best statistical season with Texas, Holmes would rush for 524 yards and score 5 touchdowns, punctuated with an MVP award in the 1994 Sun Bowl. After playing in mostly sparring roles his freshman and sophomore season, Holmes, after gaining a bit more responsibility his junior season, looked to be the featured back for the Longhorns in 1995. Unfortunately, Holmes would suffer a knee injury in the spring of 1995, tearing an ACL, which made way for incoming prospects Sean Mitchell and a little-known running back named Ricky Williams. Though Holmes would get less touches when he returned for the 96 season due to his underclassmen teammates, he was okay with the change due to the team's great success.
Great success.
Holmes would highlight this in a 2002 review with Texas Sports, and even Williams would share how even he thought he was taking playing time from Holmes. The upperclassman was still willing to mentor Ricky and help the team. After going undrafted, Holmes would wind up with the Baltimore Ravens for the 1997 season. Similar to their historic Super Bowl team during the 2000 season, Baltimore was still primarily led by its talented defense when Holmes joined the club. Also similar to his role with the Texas Longhorns, Holmes was mostly an afterthought in the offense. In his best season with the club, Holmes rushed for just over 1,000 yards with an average of 14 carries per game. Even when he broke the 1,000-yard mark, Holmes was not the featured player on the offense. After Holmes saw just 9 games of action in 1999, he would again have to play second fiddle to a more bruising back in his 3rd season in the pros. For the 2000 season, the team's Super Bowl year, Holmes would take a back seat to rookie running back Jamal Lewis, who replaced the incumbent Holmes for the starting position. With a Super Bowl title under his belt in a supplementary role, Holmes would sign with the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2000 offseason, hoping for one opportunity to seize everything he ever wanted.
One opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted.
Though a relatively quiet deal, Holmes would go on to have arguably the greatest 3-year stretch from a running back in league history. In 3 seasons with the Chiefs, Holmes would have 960 carries for 4,590 yards and 56 touchdowns, while also helping in the passing game. During this stretch, Holmes would catch 206 passes for 1,976 yards and 5 scores. During this run, Holmes would also break Marshall Faulk's single-season touchdown mark for a running back, which was soon after broken by Shaun Alexander and LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005 and 2006 respectively. Also, during this period, Holmes would go on to become one of the faces of modern fantasy football. According to Football Perspective, whose research was through the 2014-2015 season, Holmes had the 3rd best fantasy football seasons for a running back. Above him are LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 campaign and O.J. Simpson's 1975 season. NFL.com had cited Holmes had the 3rd and 4th best seasons for a running back in fantasy history. After signing a 7-year, $40 million deal before the start of the 2003 season, Holmes unfortunately dealt with several injuries during the remainder of his career. In very frightening fashion, Holmes would suffer a spine injury the day before Halloween in 2005 and would miss the 2006 season entirely. It was during this period that head coach Herm Edwards went to back up Larry Johnson, who would also become a top 3 running back and household name in fantasy drafts while Holmes was recovering. Holmes was held to just 19 games during the final 4 seasons of his career and did make a 4-game comeback in 2007, but called it a career after suffering another injury, this time to his neck. Before Jamal Charles would reset the record about a decade later, Holmes would retire as the Kansas City Chiefs' all-time leading rusher. However, as of the 2018-2019 season, Holmes still holds the club record for not only rushing touchdowns, but total scores as well. This is an especially impressive feat since Tony Gonzalez, arguably the best tight end in league history, spent the majority of his career with the Chiefs. At 5'9", 210 pounds on a good day, Holmes finished with just under 1,800 touches in his professional career. However, he chose to not join the concussion class action lawsuit, which had been taken up by over 1,200 players. With his position and the number of hits he took, it would make sense for Holmes to join his colleagues. However, he decided against it. Holmes would say he understood the cost of the game and in an SB Nation interview noted he did not see stars but actually colors when he suffered big hits. With the injury scares at his size and position, the football community is glad to see that one of its biggest stars at one point has been able to live a relatively smooth life. After hanging up his cleats, Holmes continued to be busy. Founded during his playing days in 2005, Holmes, since retirement, has also led his own foundation, the Priest Holmes Foundation, which encourages children towards the world of education. Based in San Antonio, Texas, where Holmes has lived, the running back has also worked as an analyst for the Longhorns Network. Holmes would also go back to his alma mater, not just for work, but also schooling too. In 2015, he earned his bachelor's degree in Youth and Community Studies from the school's Department of Education. Holmes has been inducted into the San Antonio Sports Hall of Fame, the UT Longhorns Hall of Honor, the Texas High School Hall of Fame, and in 2014, he was inducted into the Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. Recently, there has been a small but steady effort to try and put Holmes into a more recognizable Hall of Fame, the NFL's. While once just an argument among Chiefs fans, message board videos done by national publications like the Players Tribune and NFL.com, as well as articles done by Fansided, have renewed interest in looking at the career of Holmes. Proponents of Holmes can point out the likes of Hall of Fame rushers like Gayle and Terrell to argue for Holmes into Canton, since they were also running backs who shined among the best of their generation but had relatively short primes. In any case, if you were an older football fan or a millennial who grew their fanhood in the early 2000s, Holmes was one of the game's best players and certainly deserves further recognition for lighting up defenses and being arguably the best runner during the last seasons of the NFL's rushing era. What do you think about Priest Holmes' story? Join us in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and Total Pro Sports on social media. We post great content every day. Make sure to subscribe and put on your notifications because we post new videos every single day. If you like this video, give it a like. The like button's right below. Of course, thanks for watching. I'm Joe Biondo. I'll see you next time.